In this video, we are going to be talking about one of the most important and foundational things when starting and scaling your AI agency, and that is going to be niche selection. This is going to be the preceding video to the next video section, which is going to be offer creation. These are going to tie hand in hand into each other, and this is going to be the foundation of what your entire AI agency is built on top of. And so, we're going to be talking about niche selection. And tons of people say, hey, just pick any niche, you can pick any niche, all niches work. And they're not wrong. All niches do work. You can see success in all niches. I know people who are doing very well across all niches, but there is niches that are better, you have more leverage in, and overall make it a lot easier to scale, because all niches are possible to scale, but of course you want to pick the ones that are easier and more leveraged. And so, firstly, what even is a niche? Some of you guys might be very in the beginner stages, which is completely fine. And so what even is a niche? Is simply the industry or the type of business that you are targeting. That's it. Very simple. The niche is simply the type of business you are targeting. Examples of niches that you can target. There are professional services. And what do these professional services consist of? These are things like law firms, lawyers. These are things like accountants. These are things like lending companies. And we've worked with all these businesses before. So I can tell you with experience, these are, of course, more sophisticated niches, more sophisticated industries to go after. And so overall, they're a little bit tougher to communicate with, a little bit tougher to get amazing results for. Nonetheless, it is still very doable. Now, another section of niches is online businesses, right? Info products. An online business is a very viable niche to go after. There's a lot of different niches inside of here consisting of agencies, like yourself, agencies, coaches, consultants, info products, info. These are all online niches that you can go after. Now, what's another type of niches? There's another category of industries, another category of niches, which are the ones that I believe are by far the best and the ones that we use to scale and the ones that we help our clients use to scale the most. And those are, if you know me, you know what I'm gonna say, those are the home services. I'm even gonna write this a bit bigger because it's the one that we are going to be focusing on. The home services. And so, what's inside of home services? We have things like roofers. We have things like home renovation. We have things like landscaping. We have things like foundation companies. We have things like waterproofing companies. We have things like plumbers. We have things like electricians. We have things like HVAC. These are all examples of home service companies. And home service companies are amazing niches to go after. And so here, this is why I say, out of all of these ones to go after, sure, they all work, but the ones that are the most leveraged, it's not gonna be the professional services. It's not going to be the online businesses. It's going to be the home services. And that is exactly why we target them. That is exactly why we help our clients target them, because this is the best direction to go. And I'm going to explain why. Because look, you might be wondering, okay, you've named out all these niches and you've explained that apparently home services are better, right? Versus online business professional services. But why is that the case? And I'm gonna tell you why, because it's very clear, it's very laid out, it's very self-explanatory when you actually see it broken down. And so, there's a couple things, right? There's a couple things that are a little bit more subjective, right? Because you're gonna be working with these businesses. These are going to be businesses that you're working with, you're communicating with all the time. And so one of the big things you wanna focus on is personality types. Do you gel with these types of people? Do you enjoy working with these types of people? This is going to vary from person to person, but for me personally, I find working with home service businesses is very enjoyable. They're blue collar guys, they're very laid back, they're not tech people. They don't wanna be involved in the tech, they don't really wanna be involved in the back end, they don't wanna be involved in the work you're doing. They wanna let you take care of it, and they take care of their labor, their hard work, what they're known for and what they're good at. And that's why it's always enjoyable to work with them. They're usually very chill guys, very laid back, and overall, if you make them money, they are sticking around, they're very loyal. They're good guys, they're very good guys, and they're very enjoyable to work with. And that's a subjective thing, that's a personal thing that I believe makes this niche superior to the others. But now let's get into the logistical side of it, because at the end of the day, there's a few main reasons that these niches are better. Firstly, there's gonna be one that relates to the opportunity cost. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to get these niches, right? We're trying to get them leads, we're trying to get them appointments, right? We're trying to make them more money and help them close more deals. And so for us to do that, we need to have them profiting with us, right? If they're not profiting working with us, they're not gonna stick around. And so let's say, for example, that the business is paying us, let's say we're charging, our basic package is they're paying us $2,000 a month, and they're also paying $3,000 a month in ads, right? That total is $5,000. And so the total is $5,000. That's their costs with us, right? And so that's how much they're spending with us every month. So us at a bare minimum need to bring them $5,000 of net profit on their services for them to break even with us, right? And so with that, there's different types of businesses that we can do this for. So I'm going to compare how much it takes to get them to a certain point in revenue, right? And so ideally, you don't want to be having your clients break even, right? That's usually not the best thing. You want your clients to be profiting a lot, right? And so ideally, we want to be making our clients more than almost at least double what they're spending with us, right? If a client pays $5K total to work with you with the ads and your service fee, you need to be at least making them $10,000, so they're at least doubling their money. If you can at least triple their money, quadruple their money, they're probably going to stick around with you for a very long time. Double their money, they might be thinking, hey, there's the chance they think, hey, this might not be worth it. But if you're doubling their money, right? Let's say you're making them $10,000, which is a 2x ROI, right? A 2x ROI working with you, 2x ROI is $10,000, right? That's how much they would need to make. And so the beautiful thing, right? If you're comparing, let's say, home services versus, let's say, a professional service or an online service, or I'll even compare it to like med spas, for example, which is a professional service, right? Professional service like med spas, dentists, etc. And so let's compare. To get a 2x ROI, a 2x return on investment of the $5K they're paying with us for, let's say, med spas versus, let's say, a roofing company, okay? And so med spas versus roofing, med spas, all right? We need to get them to $10,000 in cash collected from what we generate them, right? And so for us to do that, the average roofing job is going to be anywhere from $10,000 to about $30,000, $40,000, depending on the size of the roof. So that being said, it is very, very easy. We get them one job, they're making roughly $10,000 to $30,000, right? But we also need to consider their profit, because sure, it's great to get them $10,000 in a job, but if they profit 20%, that's only $2,000 that they're actually making, and they're technically still losing money working with you. And so I'm gonna say that these guys are profiting, I'll say about 40%, which is pretty standard for most of these businesses. That is gross profit, not net, but 40% is what most of these guys are grossing with the home service companies we work with. And so with this, we might only need to get them one job. If we get them one $20,000 job, which is very, very reasonable, very, very doable, they just made more than enough to cover what they're paying us. But here at med spas, and I worked with med spas, so I can speak for this, a lot of the packages I would get these med spas would be between like $300 to $800. So let's say about $500 on average, right? And then they might upsell to $1,000 or $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 package, but that's not going to happen on the front end like it is with a roofing company. And so here, you only need to get them one job, that's it, for them to be profiting working with you. Whereas with med spas, $500 to get them to $10,000 cash collected from your job, or even to the $20,000 that we're comparing it to, is going to be times 40 patients. And now, when you take a look at this here, what do you think is easier to get for a client? Do you think 40 patients or one roofing job? What do you think is easier to get for a client? Obviously, it's going to be the one roofing job, right? That's pretty self-explanatory. And so this right here is just laying out the opportunity cost between selecting one niche versus the other. Because at the end of the day, you have $3,000 ad spend, right? For a client, let's say, with what they're paying us in this hypothetical situation. And so for a roofing company, you only need to get them one job with $20,000. They are profiting, they're happy, they're making good money working with you, and you only had to get them one job. Whereas with a med spa, for example, and this kind of pricing carries similar weight in a lot of these other industries where you have to get them multiple jobs for them to be making the same amount of money, you need to get them 40 patients. And that's for them to only make $20,000. Factor in the margins, they're probably profiting 20, 30%. They're not sitting very good working with you, and they're probably gonna leave. Imagine working so hard, getting your client 40 patients in a month, and they still look at it and they're like, oh no, it's not enough money, we're gonna need to leave. That is not a situation you wanna be in, and that is why picking a niche like home services is so damn important. Because for example, sometimes we get clients jobs that are $25,000, $30,000, $35,000. When a client closes a $35,000 job from you, you don't even need to get them another job the entire month. Say something terrible happens, the ads fall apart, your ad account disabled or whatever. Even if you don't get them another job the rest of the month, you got them one $35,000 job, they are sticking around, they are renewing, and they're probably going to send you even a bunch of referrals as well. And so that's the difference between these two niches here. That's the difference between many home services and many other niches. And that is largely why home services is the niche you want to be going after in terms of opportunity costs, right? Because it's not about what niche is better, it's about what niche is your time better spent working in. What niche can you get better results for in the same amount of allotted time, right? You have, let's say 30 or 90 days, depending on the contract you have with your client. Are you going to be able to get a better return with less effort, less time, less work with a home service company or a med spa or a professional service or any other type of niche out there? It's 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10 even going to be a home service company. And that's only for a 2x ROI. Once you start to really scale up ad spend, you're going to be making these guys a lot of money. And imagine you get them 2 jobs in a month now. 20,000, which is, or 2 times 20,000, 40,000 cash collected in a month, 2 jobs, let's say, which is very, very doable. Now to match that, you got to get 80 patients for a med spa. And that's the difference between these niches here. And that's largely why the home services are so effective. Now, what do we call this here? What is the word for this? This is called leverage. This is called leverage. And this is what we want to focus on throughout absolutely everything. You're going to see me mention leverage through every single other module, every single other section of the videos that I'm going to be putting together here for you. Every single other section is going to be talking about leverage because that's the most important thing inside of business. How can you leverage your time, your money, your effort to get the best results? And that's why home services is going to be the best bang for your buck when it comes to niche selection. Other things you do want to consider when picking a niche is just very basic foundational things. Do you have prior knowledge in a home service niche? Did you work summers with roofers? Did you work summers in construction? A lot of you guys did, especially if you're young guys like myself, work these type of jobs. I did landscaping when I was in university, when I was in my early years of university. I worked landscaping this summer, so I had a lot of knowledge on landscaping, how it works, all this type of stuff. And so that could potentially be an in or something that brings me into a certain specific home service niche. If you have knowledge in different niches, leverage that, take advantage of that, use that to get in with those niches and do very, very well for them. And another amazing thing about the home services, which is a little bit outside of the fact of what we spoke about here in terms of the dollar figures and everything, is that they are very, very well connected with each other. When you get a home service company very, very good results, it's easy to get them to refer you to somebody else, get them to send another business their way. Every single home service company knows tons of other home service companies. We get referrals very, very easy. We get referrals. We have a client who sends us a new referral every month because we continue to make him $50,000 to $150,000 every single month by only getting him like 4 to 8 jobs a month, right? Imagine getting 4 to 8 jobs per month and making your client 6 figures a month. Whereas to match that with med spas at this $500 per patient mark, you would need to be getting them like 300 patients, right? It's just ridiculous. Not going to happen unless you're pumping 100,000 a month into ads. And so at that case, it's very clear what the better niche is to go after. So do with this as you will. Like I said, the good home service niches to go after: roofers, home renovation, landscapers. Plumbers are not bad, they're a bit lower ticket. HVAC, also a little bit lower ticket, but still very good. We do work with some HVAC companies that we got sent as referrals from our clients. We of course work with waterproofing companies, foundation companies we work with as well. You can go after all types of these niches. They all do very well. They all do tons of high ticket services where you get them a few jobs. They're making tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands a month, and you're going to do very well for them. And so take all this information, take notes, store it, memorize it, and we're going to use a lot of this in the next section here, which is going to be using the niche you select to construct a bulletproof offer. And so that's all for this niche selection video. This is going to be a relatively short one, and now we'll get into the offer creation one, and I'll see you there.